Hey Hyperspinners, today I'm going to show you how to install Hyperspin, so get ready. Alright guys, so first things first, we're going to go to hyperspinfe.com and we're going to go to the link that I'm going to provide in the description below, and we're going to download the full package. This is the assumption that you have not had any sort of Hyperspin setup on your system yet. If you had, all you've got to do is download the latest Hyperspin 1.5.1, the XE version only. I'll also provide that in the description below. But we're going to focus on the full package. So you're going to go to the website, you're going to download the file here, and this is going to allow support for Windows 10 now. So it also has some support for animating wheels, which the community is just now starting to get a hold of. And this was released in May, so it is still fairly new. So once you've downloaded this file to your desktop, what you're going to want to do is decide where you're going to put Hyperspin. You're not going to be able to move this folder without breaking everything later on, so choose wisely. What I did was I've got it on a E drive. Hyperspin can be portable if it is on a path other than C. So choose your drive wisely, guys. There's no wrong answer to this. I feel like there is a Taito game that requires you to be on the F drive, but don't quote me on that. It might be G. You'd have to do some digging, but it's literally just one game that I can remember that is dependent on this drive letter. So to me, it didn't really matter. So take it for what it's worth, but make sure that wherever you're putting it, you're gonna make a folder called Hyperspin. You know, I don't think it matters on the case sensitivity. The official tutorial will tell you that it's, you know, capital H, capital S, but it doesn't matter, guys. So just make a folder, name it Hyperspin, and then extract that folder or the file that you just downloaded and extract it here. You're going to notice when you've extracted that file, you're not going to have all these folders. This is my complete Hyperspin setup, so that has all the add-ons that make my system work. So what you'll see is databases, and what I'm going to do in this tutorial is just kind of talk through the structure and what these things are, and then in a later video I'll talk through what you'll need to do in HyperHQ to actually add things in your setup. So you're going to have databases, and you're going to have HyperSync Cloud, you're going to have HyperTheme, you're going to have media, you're going to have scripts and settings, and I believe that's it. Everything else has been added. If you haven't already, take a look at my rocket launcher setup video, and what you'll have is a rocket launcher folder as well. This is going to be important to have. It's the guts behind Hyperspin, and you can place it in your Hyperspin folder. I've had no issues whatsoever. The official guides will tell you to put the rocket launcher folder just outside of Hyperspin, so you'd have, you know, your mapped drive and then Hyperspin and rocket launcher, but either one works, guys. I just prefer to have everything that's related to Hyperspin within the Hyperspin root folder, so that's why that's there. So before we kind of get into the root of all these folders here, what we're going to do, the only edit you guys need to make at this time is when you go to settings, and you're only going to see the settings INI here. Let's see here, settings, here we go. And the only thing that you're going to change is this path that says hyperlaunch_path. So you're going to just change that to your rocket launcher XE that you've downloaded from the prior video that I made. And since we're at it, forget the last system, that doesn't matter for you guys. You can also say enable exit menu is true, and single mode name is main, and main menu mode is multi. Exit default is yes, exit action is yes. That might already be default, but just a heads up there. This last system is just whatever system you played last, so you can leave that blank. But this is the most important path here that you want to make. And then you've essentially linked Rocket Launcher and Hyperspin. So that's it on this tutorial in terms of actual setup. Now let's kind of get used to what these folders are and how the structure should look, because if you move the structure around at all, it will mess your Hyperspin setup up, and your games won't launch, or your media won't show up. So let's get started here. So the database folder, this is going to be a list of all your games that you have for your systems. So you're going to have a folder for each one of your systems. So I've got playlists, so that's why you've got a long list here that kind of muddies the water here. But basically, if you just open up, I'm going to open up one of these here. We'll go 64 here. So what we've got here is within that system folder, you're going to have a list of genres if you choose to, but ultimately what we're after is just the XML for the system name. So this is going to be the list of all the games that you have, and what you're going to find is, I'm going to open this up real quick. I'm opening this up in Notepad here. So you're going to have the game names. So this, in quotations, is what the game name has to be for it to run, and the description is whatever you want it to display in Hyperspin alone. Manufacturer, year, the genre, all of this is in the official Hyperspin Hyper list, and I'll provide that link in the description below. But yeah, this will all come standard based on that official list, but I'm just giving you a detailed description of what this stuff is. Index set to true, that's if you want your games to be alphabetized when you are searching by letter. And enabled, yes, that means you want it to display within the Hyperspin wheel. If you select no for any particular game, that will disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. So that is the genres. I'll show you how to make, I'll show you how to make genres, but this is the database structure. You've got a system folder for each one of these, and then a XML that matches the exact system name that you have. So, also the main menu folder here, this is going to be a list of all of your games, all of your systems that you have here. So I've got a nested wheel, so it's a little different, but for you guys, if you don't have a nested wheel, there's a main menu XML, and that's going to get you a list of all the systems that you have. Mine's going to look a little different because I also have metadata in here, like the year and the genre. The only way that you're going to get that is if you've got the nested wheel set up at this time. So you're just going to have a list of each one of your systems, games names, and that's going to be the list in the order that is going to display in Hyperspin. So if you want to order these by year, you would simply just move these date or game names around. For the nested wheel, you'll have to check out my nested tutorial video, but essentially this category XML is basically the list of all of your categories, and this main menu for the nested wheel is the list of categories that you have, and this actual main menu XML is what changes based on your nested wheel whenever you choose to get that. So I'm going to back up here. We're going to get out of databases, and what you're going to want to do, since we're here, you're going to want to select emulators, you're going to want to create a new folder name it emulators, and this is going to be where all your emulators and games are going to end up being. Next, we've got HyperSync Cloud. So this is going to be where your HyperSync XE is, and HyperSync is a platinum member benefit, and this allows you to sync your media. So you'll click your system that you create in HyperSync, and you'll go through all the options, and you'll make sure that video syncs on when you are on EMU movies. That's also a platinum feature, but basically once you've synced your media for a system, it's going to take all of the files that Hyperspin has for your themes, for your wheels, and your video clips from EMU movies, and it's going to download everything basically instantly. So after a good few minutes, you're going to have a full media set that will get you on your way, and you can customize it as you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and back up out of this, and then we're going to go to media. So this is going to be the guts and glory of everything, guys. So once you kind of get used to this, it will be pretty apparent on what you've got to do here. So in the media folder, you're going to have a system folder for each one of your systems that you have. So I'm just going to go to main, and you're going to see a file structure that looks like this for all your systems. In the images folder, and I'll mention basically once you've set a system up in Hyper HQ, it will create this folder structure for you. So keep in mind, I'll do a tutorial for you guys probably tomorrow on Hyper HQ and adding a system. But for now, we're in the image folder, and artwork 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be blank. And basically these are folders where if you want to display specific items for your wheel, you will display that. And keep in mind, if you have any themes, here, I'm actually going to back up out of here and give you a good example here. If you've got any themes for your system, what's going to happen is it's going to display the themes first. And if you try to display, let's say, box art or cart art, all that stuff won't display if your theme does not support it. So check out my video from the other day on Hyper Theme and see how you can implement your artwork for box art, so artwork 1 or 2, and get that displaying here. So let me go ahead and open up one of these that has a decent variety here. So in the artwork 1 folder, it doesn't matter what you guys place in these, but generally speaking, what I do is I put the box art in the lower numbered folders, because how Hyper Theme works is it layers your artwork, and basically I want the box art to be on the lowest layer possible, so I can stack a disc or cart art on top of this box or on the corner of the box, so it doesn't override anything. So that's all that is. So that's artwork 1, and all that artwork needs to be named specifically to match the name of your game. So whatever you just saw in the database folder, then that's the name that we've got to use, and that's the name that the game name has to be. So that database is sort of the backbones to everything. And feel free to use a renamer tool like FatMatch. You can check that out in a later video that I've made, and that will allow you to very quickly rename art or anything really to match your database. So keep in mind that everything has to be matching, even if the case of these letters are different. So if it's a lowercase a, it won't show up in Hyperspin. So it's got to be exactly how the database name is. So you can see the artwork 2, I had art in there. And then we've artwork 3, so I've got nothing in there. Artwork 4, nothing in there. So you literally can put anything in here, guys, but box art, you always want to put in the smallest number possible. And the cart art or disc art, you want to put basically in the next level down from that box art. Backgrounds. So I don't have anything in backgrounds because, you know, I've got themes and I've got a default theme. Also, game start, this you won't actually see. This is actually an old feature in Hyperspin. This would basically provide a loading screen. Now Rocket Launcher supports that, so you can ignore that. Next, we've got genres. So what you're going to find is a background and wheel folder. If you go to backgrounds, this is going to be a list of all of your backgrounds for your genres. So the genres that you found in your database folder, when you opened up that XML, you saw the name of the game, and then you saw the genre, and you saw the year. Well, this has to be the name of all of your genres. And I'll show you in a later tutorial on how to quickly make all of the genres for your systems. It's very easy. So this is the other part. So your genres aren't always consistent in all of your Hyperspin databases. So you're going to want to make sure that your genre backgrounds match the exact naming convention that your database system folder has. So there's all your genre backgrounds. When you're on the genre mode, that's what's going to populate. And then we got genre wheels. So this is within Hyperspin, there's special artwork. What you're going to find is, you know, the joysticks at the bottom of Hyperspin that move around when you open up Hyperspin. That's a special artwork layer. And then this is artwork C, special artwork C. You're going to see that when you open Hyperspin, you'll see a genre, if you will, like just text display at the top. I didn't want to see that, so what I did is I created genre wheels and I created a genre special art, which I mirrored this artwork and I made it smaller. So I've got like a little icon in the top right corner of my videos. When you see my showcase, it will show the genre that I'm in. But these genre wheels here, so when you are in a system and you select genre, you're going to basically see a list of genres that you have. And these wheels will display the art that shows up on the right-hand side of your, when it's a genre, it shows up on the left-hand side, I believe. So yeah, that's all this is. You want to make sure that these naming conventions match your database. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of here. I'm going to go back to images. Letters. So this is going to be a list of all of, so if you hold down left or right on your joystick, you will be able to search for letters. You're going to notice that some of these letters aren't, actually beautified, if you will. And that's because there aren't any games that are associated to that. So there's no bother of even fixing that. So, but when you select your letter skip by left or right, holding the left or right, you'll display these letters. And that allows you to search for your games by letter. Next, we've got other. This is going to be where your pointer is. The file has to be named pointer. I've made a lot of these. I've custom made a lot of these. So I'm sure you'll run across one of those files for me at some point if you're on the Hyperspin forums. Particle effect. I've literally never created anything for this. This will be used for theming. If you get advanced there. Next, we got special. So this is kind of what I was speaking about earlier about genres. So the artwork C, the special artwork C, is your genre media. So if you create a genre wheel, you're going to notice that these guys are really small. It's because I wanted to have an icon that displayed, on the top left to display what genre I'm actually looking at. But yeah, I'll provide a tutorial on how I shrunk these these files pretty easily in a batch. And what I want to also show you is the special artwork here. What you'll do is when you open up the images special, you're going to find special artwork A1 and B1, and I think that might be it. You might have A1, A2, B1, B2. But basically that's the artwork of the joysticks that are bouncing around at the bottom of Hyperspin, and then the press start that's sort of like blinking on the left and the right hand side there. That's all that is, and you can delete those or move them, whatever it might be if you don't like them. But what I did is I've got buttons of what things are, so exit, enter, genre, favorites. I've got those sort of helpful guides so you know what to do when you enter my setup. So that's all that is. The SWF are those animated features. And then we got the wheels. So I like the bordered look for this system. And when you are a Platinum member on HyperSync or Hyperspin, when you use HyperSync, your wheels will not be bordered and there will not be a background, so it'll just be naked. But take it for what you will. Check out my previous video on how to border your wheels and your backgrounds on your wheel art. And these names have to match your database, like always. So that's the image folder. Then we've got the sounds folder, this background music. So when you scroll over to one of your games, if your music file matches the exact name of the game itself, then this will play in the background while you're selecting that wheel. It adds a little pop to it. You can find some downloads on the forums, but as I get subscribers, I will be pumping out some of this media so you don't have to go hunting for it. And all my stuff is named by the official database that Hyperspin provides, so just kind of keep that food for thought, so it's all pretty standard. Next we got system exit. That's if you want to exit your system. It'll provide a jingle, if you will. I don't have any exits. I have system starts, so I tried to get sounds that mirrored what it originally sounded like when you started up the system, back in the day. So when I enter this wheel, then it will, play a short tune, like 1 second, and then it'll display the games. Your wheel sounds. So this, by default, you're going to have sort of the Hyperspin craziness, which it's good craziness. So when you select a system and then you push up or down within the Hyperspin wheel, when you're at the games for that system, you're going to hear, a slew of different sound effects from various systems, and which is good, guys. What I wanted to do was kind of streamline this, and I wanted to get the sounds for this specific system to only be related to that system. So what I try to do is get a number of my systems to be very specific here. So your system files basically need to be 1 through however many you have. So you can see I've typed the system name and then the number of the sound effect. So basically I've got 230 sounds that will be randomly played each time I push the down button. So it's just going to play one random sound effect as I click through the wheel. And then we've got the wheel click. So that's, you're also going to hear, just the beat of the click here. I actually might just do it so you can hear it. Yeah, so that's the sounds. Then we've got themes. So what we've got here, you don't need to worry about this default folder here, but these themes have to be the exact naming convention of your database, just like what we've always been saying. And what you're going to want to do is get a default background or theme. So you're going to name that. You can see I've got a number of defaults here. These are different variations and backups, if you will. But you're just going to name the theme that you like to have on all your games. If it does not have a theme, then you're going to have this default theme. So choose wisely. There's plenty of themes on the Hyperspin download section, and yeah, so just capital D, default, and that's it, guys. So if I were to open this, you know, you can do this in Hyper theme as well, but you can see what I've got is a you know, background, a theme, and then a video file here. So basically, you know, you're going to have sort of this default, and it's going to display for all your systems. So yeah, that's it, guys. So next we've got videos. So this is going to be your video clip that happens in your theme, and you're going to notice in here I've got basically PNG files and MP4s. So one thing to mention here is if you are a platinum member on MU Movies, you can sync your video clips using HyperSync, and it'll just, you know, populate all these files here. And what, you know, sometimes that MU Movies site doesn't always have all of the videos. Like I'm talking like 99% of the time, you're gonna find the video clip, but there are times where you won't, and you can replace that video preview with a PNG. So the video preview will first look at anything that's an MP4 file or FLV file, and if that doesn't exist, then it will take a PNG file, so a picture. So what I did was, just to be safe, and you know, I used Hypermint to ensure that everything was filled in. So I've got full media. I just took basically screenshots. You know, there's downloads on Hyperspin, and basically there's either going to be a screenshot of the game that I'm selecting, or there will be a video preview. And 99% of the time, the video preview will show up. But again, you've got to have the exact naming convention. You can see you can even have an MP4 and a PNG having the exact same name, but that MP4 is what's going to display. So I did that just for safety precautions because I wanted a full media set. The screenshot downloads are very small, so I'm not worried about space either. So that's the structure of media. You're going to have the system menu. While we're here, I'm going to go to front end. Here we go. So front end is here. So front end's important, and there's some important media that I'm going to mention. If you go to images, you're going to see I've got a background image. So when I exit, if you have a file called menu_exit_background, that's going to be what you see when you have to select yes or no to exit. Also a menu for my favorites. So when I try to label a favorite game, I'm going to select menu_favorites_backgrounds. That's going to be able to customize your setup a little bit. And then if you want to change these arrows when you are exiting your system, you can create a file and then menu_favorites_arrow and menu_exit_arrow. So that's the icon that I use instead of the arrow. And you know, you can change the font of your text even if you wanted to, but I left it as is. But yeah, guys, yeah, these are just backups here. You know, always back up your items. Sounds, if you wanted to update some of the sound effects in the background, you could do that as well. I kept these standard. And then videos. So if you haven't already, take a look at my randomizer video, and it will tell you how to randomize your intro video. What you're also going to see is this no video file. So whenever there isn't a video in your setup, I've got full media, so I don't ever see this. You know, you can create a custom no video file, and that's what's going to display in place of the artwork. I didn't like the arrow, so that's why I was going after something that looked nicer, and that's why that's there. But I don't ever see it. This intro file, FLV, this is what's going to display in your intro video. You won't see the random startup video folder here, but go ahead and create one after you've viewed my random intro video startup files. And then you've also got this transition folder. So this is something that you can really play with. By default, Hyperspin has a number of transitions. So as you sort through your games, this is kind of what happens on the background. And, you know, I would say pick a good, like, I don't know, 20 to 50. If you've got 100 or so, it's going to take Hyperspin some time to basically try to figure out which one it's going to take. So just kind of pick your favorites. So, you know, it's enough variety, but not enough to like trip up your system. And these can be named anything really. So, yeah, and these are just short minute clips. I'm not sure where I found some of these transitions, but they're absolutely awesome. All credits go to them. So I'm going to go back up. And I'm going to talk about the main menu folder here. So this is going to be when you first enter Hyperspin, this is what you're going to see for all your systems. You're going to go to images and you're going to go, so everything we've already talked about here. The main menu wheel, you can't really, you know, go by letter here. I wish you could, but I have the letters here, you know, maybe one day. And same thing with pointers. So the other folder, the other folder, you're going to name your pointer that you want to use as pointer. I've got other variations that I was messing with, but those are labeled something else, so those will never show up. And special artwork. So if you ever decide to customize your special artwork, remember the joysticks, moving, animation stuff that happen at the bottom of Hyperspin, you're going to have to update that and add those files to every one of your systems as you add them. So just kind of keep that in mind. I've customized it, so I had to basically copy and paste these and put these in every one of my systems. And then the wheel. So this is going to be the wheel art for your systems. So, you know, if I go to, you know, MAME here, that's the wheel art that I use. And that's that's going to be what shows up, guys. So I'm going to go back up in main menu. I'm going to go to themes. These are all the themes that you have here. If you stumble upon the HyperCinematics files, you know, the video files, those themes are going to be a little different since those are video files and you want those to be full screen. Then what you're going to want to do is what I'll do is I'll provide this on the Mega site here, but you're going to want to use one of these themes that provide a full video view of that video. So the theme is blank, as you see here. So when I go back to themes, this system name has to be exactly what's in your database, main menu database. And your videos, you're going to have a list of all your videos. And when I go to MAME, there's my MAME video. And if you guys haven't already seen, TKO made this main menu video. I mean, it's virtually everywhere. I mean, it's on Hyperspin, it's on Launchbox. It's probably the best theme out there for MAME. So, you know, that's that. And let's see. That should be it, guys. So main menu and front end, you guys can really custom make whatever you need to there. That's what's going to be displaying in your by default Hyperspin extract that you've just done. And let's just kind of brief over these other two folders and then we'll call it a day. So the scripts folder, you're not going to do anything in here. I've later modified the scripts folder to support bezels across Hyperspin itself. So I've got the option to display, you know, Hyperspin with a bezel, and it fixes the theme ratio, so things don't look stretched out whenever I choose to. If you haven't already, take a look at my HS bezel video, and that will describe how to set that up. So lastly, we've got settings. We've kind of already talked about this. The settings folder, when you update something in Hyper HQ, this is what's going to be edited. So you're just going to basically fill out what's in the GUI of that HyperHQ, and that is how you're going to be adding systems. So there's HyperHQ, Hyperspin, and you can fire up Hyperspin once you've added that rocket launcher path to that settings ini file that's in that settings folder, and you should be on your way to adding systems. So we'll talk about how to do that tomorrow, and we'll catch you then.